You know what was a really big deal when I was a kid
Hmm.
is when you had your 10th birthday.
Yes.
Because then you could do this.
Double digits.
I've got 10 years,
Yep.
10 fingers. I'm double digits now, and you really felt like a grown-up back then.
The big 1-0.
Does your prayer life feel like a grown-up right now? On day 10? On day 10, are you like, I've already made it? Like, my prayer life is grown up. It is fully matured. If so, you're either wrong or the Lord has blessed you incredibly, and I want to talk to you about how you did it in only 10 days. But hopefully we're still growing a little bit. That day 10 is actually, I don't know if, I think I am allowed to have favorites. Jesus kind of had favorites. You know, he had 12 disciples, but he had an inner circle of 3. He had the disciple that Jesus loved.
Yeah, John
and
was,
so,
according to John, the favorite.
According to John, John was the favorite. But it's in the Bible, so therefore it's trustworthy. Jesus had favorites, so I think I can have a favorite. I think this is my favorite day of all.
Who's your
21.
favorite staff member at REVO Church?
Well, since you're here, I'll say you.
Amen.
If anybody else was on the podcast, I'd tell the truth.
That's
No, my favorite staff member is whoever is helping me currently. And right now, you're helping me, so thank you. Mark chapter 5 was day 10, and the reason I say this is one of my favorites is because I feel like all 21 days of the devotions that we have are really centered on what you are doing in the waiting room, what God is doing in you, through you, for you in the waiting room. Whereas day 10, Mark chapter 5, is more about what God is doing in other people while you are waiting. It's one of the weirdest, really maybe hardest. It's a struggle that's presented here, that Jesus made Jairus wait for Jesus to heal his daughter so that Jesus could heal someone else on the way. I mean, in fact, it's really presented in Mark that it was during the waiting, and maybe even because of the waiting, that his daughter died. And so it's as if Jesus said, no, your daughter's going to die while I'm working and healing and talking to and giving my time and attention to someone else. I mean, it's even more radical when you think it's the woman that had this disease for 12 years with the issue of blood and that sort of thing. And Jesus says, it's okay for you to wait in a life-threatening emergency situation because I want to help somebody that could go another day, that could wait another 10 minutes, that could wait an hour, that could wait another year. You know, I mean, she lived with her for a while. Like, her situation is not life or death. Jairus' situation was, and Jesus says, I'm going to make you wait a little bit so that I can help her. And it's just the idea of, are we willing to wait on God and have God bless someone else while we are waiting? Are we willing to say, I'll take the back seat so that someone else can be blessed by God? I mean, that's hard.
Yeah.
That's kind of radical stuff.
Interestingly enough, this wouldn't be the only time in Scripture where somebody died waiting on Jesus.
Yeah.
That's
true.
the story of Lazarus.
Right.
Mary says, if you would have been here, if you'd have gotten here sooner, if you hadn't waited so long, if you weren't doing whatever you were doing, then my brother wouldn't have died.
And she's completely right,
yes,
too. So it's not even like a wow, what a lack of faith. It's like, it's actually great faith. She's like, you could have healed this sickness. You just didn't show up on time.
Yeah, the difference, though, in Lazarus and Jairus' daughter is Jesus was doing ministry. He was doing other things. But with Jairus' daughter, Jairus had a request. God answered the prayer, but gave the answer to someone else. Because Jairus was praying for a miraculous healing.
Right.
And God was like, you know what? I had miraculous healing on my bingo card today. I'm going to do it. God gives Jesus the ability to do it, and Jesus gives it to somebody else on the way. And I can't tell you how discouraging it can be sometimes in prayer. When you are urgent, like this dad, urgent, man, desperate for God to move in his daughter's life, in his kids' lives. And Jesus, I'm coming to you and asking a specific prayer and then seeing God answer that prayer in someone else's life. Even to the point where Jesus agrees that he's going to help the man, but then stops. And it seems to give it away. I've got friends that are praying for many different things. I've got friends praying for a new job, for a financial breakthrough, for something to happen in their children's lives. Friends that are asking God for the blessing of having kids. And it seems like during those seasons of waiting, that prayer request, that answer is given by God to everyone in their sphere of influence. Everybody's having kids except the people that are desperately begging God for them.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's getting a new job and experiencing financial freedom except the people that are trying to honor God, trying to work hard, trying to do the right thing, calling out every single day. And yet it seems like God takes the answer and it's almost like he's teasing you with it. He's like, I can do this, right? I'm going to give it to somebody else.
Yeah,
and maybe pray again tomorrow. Let's see if you get lucky.
Right.
Dude, that can be draining on a prayer life. It can be discouraging. It can make you quit praying. And so man, I feel how Jairus feels in this text to be so excited. Yes, I'm praying. Yes, I had the faith to come up and talk to Jesus and ask him. And Jesus is following me. He's coming home with me. And then that miracle was just given to someone else. And you can just feel the wind getting knocked out of a dad's
deflating
sail.
Yeah. I think about my mom used to do this whenever she would drop us off somewhere when we were kids, especially places we didn't want to go or didn't want to be at, which, funny enough, was oftentimes church events that we didn't want to go to. And Mom was dropping us off there at the youth group, at the youth choir. Shout out to all the kids that had to do youth choir back in the day. All those things. And even sometimes when we would leave the house when we were a little bit older and could drive ourselves places, and when we were leaving almost without fail, she's dropping us off or we're leaving the house or whatever, she would tell us, go be a blessing. And she always said in this cheery voice that made you just want to punch a wall. You're just like, I don't want to be a blessing. I want to stay home. I don't want to be here, and I don't want to go to this thing. And the whole reason I'm going is because you're making me, you evil woman, but really like she's doing what's best for her kids. And that encouragement, even though we hated it, and even though we didn't want to do it, and oftentimes probably weren't a blessing to other people, the encouragement and the thought put in our minds was, your life isn't about you. Nothing in this world is about you. You are not the center of the world or the universe. You are not the main character. And so go be a blessing to somebody else, even if you don't want to be where you are, even if you're waiting. And it kind of got that selfless, not self-centered, not thinking only about Matthew, not thinking only about my situation. And it's really difficult in this situation, Jairus in Mark chapter 5 and his daughter, because she dies in the middle of the waiting. Somebody comes to him and says, hey, you can just go, Jesus, don't bother him anymore. Yeah. Right. Your daughter's dead. And it's like, man, had you hurried up, Jesus? Had you just said this woman can wait a little while longer? She wouldn't have died. And God, for you, may not be giving you a child or a job that you've been asking for, or maybe, you really want grandkids and nobody in your family's married yet even. So it's like, man, I'm waiting on this, or maybe it's a spouse, you're single. All that may be designed so that in this season, you can be a blessing to somebody else. God can bless someone else in your season of waiting. And the question is, are you willing to be selfless enough for that? Or are you too focused on what you want and maybe even need? Maybe it's a need. It's not even just a want. Maybe it's a need. And God's like, I see that. I understand that. But will you be a blessing to somebody else in the middle of this? To me, that's why I said it's one of my favorite days, because it's just so challenging. I mean, I even wrestled with this in my own or what I thought was prolonged. God's timing is perfect, but my own prolonged singleness, where I had to wrestle with, am I willing to, right now, I don't have anybody else to worry about but me. No, not even no kids, no spouse, no nothing. And so that means I can dedicate a lot of my time to things at church. Am I willing to do that? Or do I just want to sit at home and scroll my phone, read a book, watch TV, watch sports, whatever, Or am I willing to be a blessing to somebody else in the middle of this? It's a struggle. It's hard. Yeah.
Not just a blessing for me. Are you willing to rejoice when God blesses someone else?
Yeah. I wonder, was Jairus mad?
Not just saying oh no, I can help you, but when God moves in somebody else's life and it feels like you have been skipped over, boy, what would it look like for you at the end of 21 days of prayer to hear the fact that God answered prayer, God's hand moved, God blessed other people, and maybe you're still waiting, but for you to thank God and rejoice, be like, man, I am so glad that God did that in
Yep.
your life. Praise God. Congratulations. I think the attitude that we have towards God blessing other people is a real test that God will give us in a period of waiting.
Rejoice with those who rejoice, weep with those who weep. A lot of times it's easier for us to be sad when someone else is sad because we've been there. We know what it's like.
Yep.
It's a lot harder for us to be selfless when we see somebody else getting
facts.
and receiving what it is that we've been asking for. So I love that challenge. Just ending with that on day 10. Rejoice with those who rejoice, even while you're still stuck in the waiting room.